Hello guys, and welcome to a brand new series, similar in some sense to the brand new Stellaris series where we discuss lore. Now of course Hearts of Iron does not exactly have any lore to talk about, it does however contain lots of history, and it can be used to show and tell some of the hidden stories in the war. There are hundreds that I could talk about, but I will keep it nice and simple for the first one, and tell the story about one of the countries' involvement in the war. Today we take a look at one of the hidden major players in the war, Switzerland. I love this little country because despite its size, their strategy in the war was almost perfect. Everything they did was an act to prevent getting dragged into the fighting. They played an important role economically in the war and most notably chose to take no sides. The Allies called them Nazi sympathizers and the Axis thought they were Allied supporters and made many plans to invade. Let us begin in 1918 with some information that is not all too relevant for the video, but anyway, in 1918 Liechtenstein signed a monetary and customs union with Switzerland, effectively guaranteeing its independence and providing military support in the case of a surprise invasion. A wise choice for them considering that they did not have a standing army and they still don't to this day. Fast forward to 1936 and the government of Switzerland saw that war was probably going to occur. They actually predicted in 1939, if you can believe it. That was very intelligent chappies. So they began a war bond system to increase the army defense budget. The Swiss army was changed into a smaller, better equipped and better trained divisions, with their training time for conscripts now getting up to 3 months to better prepare their army in the event of an actual war. Now in 1937, as tensions rose again, the government went into a war economy mode, very similar to what you do in Hearts of Iron 4. However, households were asked to stock up on food and other necessities about 2 months in advance, just in case that if a war did occur and rationing did take place, you would at least have some necessities that you still required. And of course in 1938 Switzerland withdrew from the League of Nations to return to staying neutral. Switzerland had rightly predicted that war would come in 1939 and they were one of the best prepared countries when it did eventually arrive. In the run-up to the war, the government started campaigns to boost the national identity of the country to being Swiss, to prevent the provocation from the Italians to trying to gain claims on some of the Canton region. This was actually a massive success as it made the population more neutral to the war itself. They were focused on protecting Switzerland and not supporting one side or the other. When war arrived in 1939, Switzerland was well and truly prepared. It immediately began mobilization of its army to demonstrate that it would not be invaded by either side. The transition into this state was very smooth as it also had the support of the entire population. Within 3 days, the entire country was mobilized. Parliament quickly decided that Henry Guisan should become general of the army, with his many years of experience in the field. Henry Guisan is an absolute genius when it came to deterring invasion from the Germans. Despite originally being a member of a pro-Nazi club, he made it obvious which side he felt to be a greater threat to Swiss neutrality. His plans for the invasion did not rely upon solid forts similar to the French defences that could be bombarded from above. The Swiss plan involved retreating into the Alps to cause long-term damaging attrition. The aim was never to beat the Germans back, but to simply make the invasion too costly for them to consider it. He made it very clear that Switzerland would resist any Nazi invasion. If they ran out of bullets, they were to resort to the bayonet. He said that Switzerland would defend itself against any invader and would never surrender. The Swiss government had a decentralized structure, so even the federal president was a relatively powerless official with no authority to actually surrender the country. Indeed, Swiss citizens had been instructed to regard any surrender broadcast as enemy lies and resist to the end. The Swiss made plans to remove signs and blow up mountain passes to make any invasion a horrific war of attrition. The aim was never to win, but simply piss off the invader to the point that they got bored and went home. As a result, they were often seen as an impossible target by many Nazi military officials. However, this did not stop many invasion plans from being drafted up. Hitler had often made comments about his hate of Switzerland and once said, "Switzerland possessed the most disgusting and miserable people and political system. The Swiss were mortal enemies of the new Germany." Well, that's quite a thing for such a man to say. Anyway, on the 25th of June 1940, the same day that France surrendered, Germany began its first plan for invading Switzerland. The most notable plan of invading Switzerland is Operation Tannenbaum. Once again, if I butchered the pronunciation, it's because I'm a British person. You know, it's difficult to say foreign sounding words. Anyway, Hitler personally wanted to oversee all plans to invade Switzerland. Hitler was known for having many outbursts against Switzerland, with many of his advisors feeling that any moment he would snap and just invade the country. A plan for the invasion was submitted by Captain Otto Wilhelm. He had personally scouted the terrain around the border and decided that if an invasion would occur, they would face very little resistance, similar to that of the Anschluss with Austria. His plan called for 21 German divisions to take part, however it was downsized to 11 German divisions and 21 Italian divisions. This would be somewhere around 300,000 and 500,000 men. The Swiss themselves, at their highest point during the war, had around 850,000 mobilized men and women in the armed forces. It is not known why Hitler never actually approved this plan, however after D-Day it became clear that this new offensive could not have been opened. Economically, Switzerland was also difficult to invade. Germany had a large store of gold kept in Switzerland, and any invasion would have been an instant economic loss because the Swiss would simply hide the German gold. During the war, Switzerland provided large economic benefits for both sides. Switzerland purchased $2,242 million worth of silver from the US alone. This helped fill gaps in the US budget and aided the Allied war effort. Switzerland also traded arms and other things with Germany. They provided a transaction of currency for Germany, allowing the Germans to trade using other currencies with neutral nations in the war. Despite this, both sides still remained blockading the country economically. Time for my favourite part, and that's the airspace actually above Switzerland in the war. The Swiss were determined to remain neutral, and despite being publicly against fascist governments and their media heavily criticising Hitler, the Swiss shot down both Allied and Axis planes. In the invasion of France alone, there were at least 197 violations of Swedish airspace by the Germans. Between May and June in 1940, the Swiss shot down a total of 11 Luftwaffe aircraft. This absolutely infuriated Hitler, who actually saw that German weapons and anti-aircraft guns were being used against German planes. As a result, he sent secret missions to sabotage Swiss airfields in the north. All of them, however, were captured by the Swiss Guards, and many border skirmishes were common for the rest of the war. The Swiss actually faced more of a threat when it came to the American Air Force. Those guys could not land a hit on a barn door from bloody 2 inches away. An American B-24 Liberator once dropped its bombs over Zurich, one of the most important cities in Switzerland. The pilot did not only miss the marshalling yard they were aiming for, they missed the city they were aiming for, and in fact they missed the entire country they were aiming for. The Swiss on several occasions blocked both Allied and Axis air movement for long periods of time. The government did, however, still treat these events as accidents and not actual threats to their sovereignty. As a result, Allied single-fighter aircrafts were given the chance to land and their crews given refuge in Switzerland if required. However, any bomber formations would be intercepted. Some US commanders were so annoyed by this that they thought the country deserved to be bombed, as they thought it was full of Nazi sympathizers. This was, to be fair, very far from the truth, but hey, it's the Americans. Overall, Switzerland remained on a nice edge for most of the war. It helped both sides, it hurt both sides, it was attacked by both sides on multiple occasions. It's a wonder why they did not get involved, but they stayed true to their national pride of neutrality. They also continued to protect Liechtenstein in the war despite many German threats towards them. Overall, hats off to these guys. They did something many other countries didn't. They protected their people at almost all costs, despite the many mistakes of the Americans. Anyway, if you guys want to see more of this brand new series, then please show me some support and I will get to work immediately on the most commented topic related to World War II when we hit 1,000 likes. If you have any idea, then put them in the comments and I will simply search for the most repeated word to see which topic I should cover. If you want to stay up to date, then subscribe for updates when I upload. Feel free to tick the notification bell and you get to leave that annoying first comment on videos. Please try and be original because Jesus Christ, they're getting a bit repetitive now. I hate seeing the, oh I'm early, better leave a joke. No, you can just fuck off, mate. Anyway, see you all in the next one. Have a great day.